This is For the Better, a podcast for those working to affect change within their team, organization, or community. I'm your host, Ben Cash. Thanks for tuning into the podcast, where we talk with leaders and change makers from purpose-driven organizations and discuss the great things they're doing. This podcast is produced by Reason One, a full-service digital agency helping those who do good do better. Today's guest is Michelle Tunno, founder of Bella Tunno, bellatunno.com. That's BELLATUNNO.com, if I got that right. They are the maker of award-winning baby products, from sippy cups to spinners, from bibs to bowls and beyond. Welcome, Michelle. Thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Looking forward to our conversation.
Oh, thanks. So we actually met through Kindred, which is a community of purpose-driven businesses that best describe that. So businesses coming together to learn from one another and be better companies and make a bigger impact. And I believe we attended a session together and happened to be paired in a breakout room. And as you can see in the background in your wall there, I saw your products, and I didn't know who you were at first. And then I remembered this. I'm showing here on the screen products that we bought. So I have twin daughters that are 3 years old. And for a number of years, we have had our Bella Tunno products, and we love them so much. The bibs are amazing. The teething, like teething rings, all of it. I'm holding here the one that says "Fries before guys" and "Fiesta then Siesta."
Fiesta then Siesta. Yeah, those are oldies but goodies.
Oh, these are great. Yeah.
Yeah.
And their products were just so much fun. They're so functional. And they just were our favorite of everything. And so we kept buying new products and things. And what was, so that was my first, realization. But what sort of blew my mind was that, initially I just liked the products. We just loved the products. And then I realized, after getting to know you, that there is a mission behind the products. Right. And that, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you today was to learn more about that mission and your journey as a purpose-driven organization and the impact that you're making. And I think it can be summed up in that phrase that I see on all your materials and your website: buy one, feed one. Mm-hmm. And, as I said, I already liked your products, but I feel good about supporting your brand now, even more. And wondering if you can tell us, where that buy one, feed one, what that is, and where that inspiration came from.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I love that you were one of our customers, and that just kind of serendipitously we got to meet, and I love those full circle moments. So buy one, feed one is it's the heart of our company. We exist to help eliminate childhood hunger. Right now in America, 1 in 6 children go to bed hungry. During the height of the pandemic, it was 1 in 4. That type of statistic is the type of thing that keeps me up at night, wakes me up in the morning. We both have kids, Ben. I mean, I can't imagine my kids missing a meal. It just doesn't happen because we're so fortunate. And so when I heard that statistic back in 2014, I dug in and I did so much research because, I spend time in third world countries, and I thought that statistic has to be there. That cannot be in our country. We can't have 18% of our American children going to bed hungry every single night. And it turned out that was the case. And so we kind of were in this situation where we were already making bibs and the plates that you showed and feeding products. Right. And so there was just a very powerful mission alignment opportunity to start doing a buy one, feed one model similar to Tom's. And we didn't invent the give back model. Right. It makes sense for it to be meals for us. But I should back up, because we were actually founded in 2005. Okay. And it had nothing to do with meals at that point. At that point, I had lost my brother, and he was my only sibling, and he was my person. We were thick as thieves. And he started struggling with drugs and alcohol when he was in his mid-teens and never got a hold of it, just really became his demon. And so he passed away back in 2003. And at that time, and I think there still is, but there was such a stigma around drug and alcohol addiction and losing a battle to drugs and alcohol, and the stereotypes and the stigmas and the lack of understanding about addiction and mental health. Um, it was devastating to me. And my brother was all these things. He was an academic and he was the smartest person I'd ever met. He was so funny. To this day, no one can make me laugh like Matt. And the fact that he passed away and the stamp that just was on his name and like kind of was his legacy was, oh, he was a drug addict. Of course he finally overdosed. And I was like, oh no, that is not going to be his legacy. And so, we can talk about it more later on, but at the time I was in corporate America and I really was hungry for corporate America. And at the time that he passed, that just came to this like screeching halt. I had no place for that rat race anymore. And so I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I knew I was going to do something to honor him and to use his name in such a positive way for all the good things that he represented. And so when I launched Bella Tunno, the same exact time I launched the Matt Tunno Make a Difference Fund. And we have never, ever sold a product without a portion of the proceeds going into the Matt Tunno Make a Difference Fund. So for the first, I guess, maybe 8 years of Bella Tunno, all of the nonprofit work that we did went to drug and alcohol rehabilitation and education and prevention efforts. And it wasn't until 2014 that the forward-facing effort of our company became Feeding Hungry Children. And the way that came about was that you can imagine you have 3-year-old twins. No one has a baby and thinks, gosh, I'm really glad this company supports drug and alcohol efforts because my child might be an addict someday. Nobody thinks that. No. Everyone thinks, like my child is going to world peace or cure cancer,
Yeah.
And by the way, I'm sure yours will, Ben. But
they will.
Not every story ends up like that. The challenge was we're selling these darling, funny, really personality-driven products. And on the back, it's like, hey, a portion of all proceeds will go to drug and alcohol rehabilitation efforts. And it was like, there's just no connection there.
Right.
So in 2014, I came across that statistic I was sharing with you. And when I dug deeper, there was some research linking food insecurity in adolescence to addictive behaviors in adulthood. And that was the connect the dots moment for me where I thought, okay, so we can align the mission of our brand to what happens to be the number 2 sustainable development goal for the entire United Nations, solving hunger. But on the back end, it's still all going through my brother's fund. And, as a family, we're still doing a lot for drug and alcohol rehabilitation. But we started doing the buy one, feed one in 2014, late 2014, November. And we've given 7.8 million meals now with the help of people like you supporting
Amazing. So these 2 plates were 2 meals.
2 meals. Yep, amazing. Exactly.
Wow. That is just such a unique and compelling story. I have so many questions. I'm curious because, running a business that has a greater purpose is in itself very rewarding. And, but the way that you tied it together in 2014 is so inspirational, interesting. I'm curious when that spark hit, when you connected those dots, how did that change the business? Did it change success? Did it change the way you thought about the business? Like, how was that a pivot for you?
It was actually just what I call rocket fuel. Until 2014, the mission of the brand had been my personal passion project. It had been my family story that I wanted to try to change. Once it became feeding children, every single person we touch, both inside our organization and outside of our organization, can grasp that, can get behind that, wants to be a part of that. And so we started doing a lot, both internally to get our team to understand how big of an issue this is, both in our city and just in our country and outside of our country. We educated our reps. We used a wholesale model. So we educated our reps. There's about 100 of them on the challenges we face. And we started rewarding them based on the meals they donated through their sales instead of the dollars brought in. We started being able to attract just insane talent because people want to work for a company that has heart. They want to work for a company that cares and gives back. And if they can come and put their 40 hours in at a place where, they feel valued and they like the products, but they also feel like they're making an impact in this world, that's just like a triple win. So I will say that was the turning point for our company. It couldn't have happened at a better time because if you think about it, we were about to brace for some really big things in the world. And so having such alignment and such momentum going was just a huge help. And to back up for a minute, to give you some like tangible examples of what this has done. When we first started doing this, we partnered with a program in Charlotte where we would go and adopt a classroom. So this is for our local team to see what is going on with food insecurity in children right here in our neighborhood, right here in our zip codes, in our city. And we're in Charlotte, by the way. And so we had about 5 of us went, maybe 6 of us went, and we each had a classroom at this school. It's called a Title I school. Title I schools, I don't know if that's a national thing or not, but they're schools that there's a very high % of children on free and reduced lunch because they struggle socioeconomically as families. So we would go in and we would read books, we would play games, and we'd bring healthy snacks. The very first time we went in, we brought tangerines and granola bars. And I was in my own classroom. I don't know exactly what the other team members experienced, but I was in this classroom of kindergartners. And a few of them, they're sitting there and we're handing out the snacks. And I was doing flashcards that day. And I look up and this one kid looks at the tangerine and he's just like, and he bites into it.
Oh, wow.
And he doesn't know to take the peel off. And another kid looks at him and was like, oh, that's how you do it. And he bites into it. And, at that point, I was like, okay, there are kids in Charlotte, North Carolina who clearly don't get fresh fruit because they had no idea how to eat a tangerine. So I went over and I'm like, hey, let me help you. That outside doesn't taste as good. Let's get to the inside. Yeah. So I'm about to leave that day. We spent about an hour in the class and I noticed over half of them have not eaten the granola bar. And I said, I want to bring snacks y'all like. If you don't like granola bars, tell me, because if my kids aren't eating food, it's because they don't like it.
Right.
And one little kid's like, oh, no, thank you, Miss Michelle. I love it. I just want to save it for dinner. And I was like, okay. And so it's moments like that I experienced for the first time, that my team experienced. And it makes you so on fire for change because no kid should be taking home a granola bar that some lady they don't know gave them for dinner.
Yeah.
That just is not the way this should work.
I mean, and I think, and that's, and it's something that I've experienced as well in running our business, that when you set a vision, when you take a stand, when you do these things, you have to walk the walk, you have to follow through. Mm-hmm. And each step you take, each new action, it fuels this, I want to lean in now. I want to lean in more. And it is sort of this self-fulfilling thing, and that's something that I didn't think about when we were starting to, use our business as a force for good. that it would change me as well. That I thought I was going to always have to be out in front of it and sort of leading the charge, but it's pushing me to do more. And it's so, when you were talking about the tangerine, somebody that I wanted to, I'd love to introduce you to is Jesse Blum. I interviewed him recently. He is the executive director of a program called the Green Heart Project, and they partner with Title I schools and schools in underserved communities that and build garden programs to help them grow, teach them life skills and leadership skills and things through the garden experience, but also they bring in the families and everyone in the community, to learn how to cook the food and sort of combat food deserts and combat, I would love to connect you to, because I think there's such a shared mission there.
I'd love that. Thank you.
So one of the questions I had too, from what you shared earlier, was when you had an initial purpose, that purpose evolved, and I think when you are purpose driven as a business, the true test is when things change, things happen, forces work against you, and how do we show up, right, with our values and our stated mission, and how do we adapt, right? For us, it was in 2020 with the murder of George Floyd. We showed up by starting a mentorship and scholarship program for Black youth, because our industry, the tech industry, is woefully underrepresented in the Black community. Not for lack of talent. There's so much talent. It's just our industry has blind spots and bias and a number of things. And so that was our way to sort of, that's how we showed up and reacted to that. And I'm curious how your business has had, whether it's similar things like whether it's the pandemic or whatever, and how your values and your purpose have helped you show up.
Yeah. So I love that question, because when the pandemic hit and we all knew it was here to stay, because at the beginning we're like, well, this isn't
6 weeks, 8 weeks.
Yeah. Everyone just stay in for 14 days and we'll be good. And when we realized this is not going away, and food pantries were shutting down and our food banks were shutting down because people couldn't work it and they didn't know how contagious things were and what to do. I remember having a moment and being like, this could be the end. All our stores, 85% of our stores in the US closed overnight because of the regulations.
Oh, wow.
And then the stores, you remember when people couldn't get toilet paper and hand sanitizer.
Yeah.
And so the stores, like our big box stores, like Target's, they didn't care about all these little giftable, fun, kind of mid to high end boutique items. They needed to get toilet paper and sanitizer and soap. We didn't matter, because the truth is our product is not a critical product. It's a giftable, fun, additive product, I guess I would say. And so I thought this very well could be the end. And if it is, we're going to give back and we're going out with a bang and giving. It's who we are. Yeah. And so the very first thing we did when everything shut down was we wrote a check. And we wrote it to the COVID-19 fund to try to do as much as we could. And it wasn't for a ton of money. I think it was like $10,000. But at that time, not knowing what was going to happen, that's what we could do. We started doubling a lot of our meal donations.
Oh, wow.
Areas that were being hit really hard, we donated our meals out there. So the wildfires were going on, if you remember, out west during the pandemic. And it was like, these people are not only struggling with what the rest of us are struggling with in the unknown and the fear, but they're losing their homes to wildfires. So we did extra meal donations out there because they did figure out how to get some of the food banks open. We just never quit. And what I decided to do was to double down on technology and new product development, because I knew that this would take a lot of people, unfortunately, out of business. Yeah. I love competition. I don't want our competition to go out of business. Competition, like steel sharpens steel, right? I mean, I think there's a place for everyone. I'm always going to move over and make a seat. But the truth of the matter is, people that were maybe as mature in their business or hadn't gone through a growth phase like we had, they weren't going to survive the pandemic. And so
Right.
we doubled down on our strategy, on our new product development. We released more products than we ever have during the pandemic.
Wow.
We brought in a huge technology platform that nobody else was buying. We leased a much bigger building and a new building. And I was like, if we can recover, we're going to be ready for it. And we're going to be here and show up, because people are going to keep needing meals and they're going to need them even more. And fortunately, that gamble paid off, because we had our best year ever last year. We're on track for another completely banner year this year. But as a leader, I don't even know how to describe that time, because I wasn't terrified. I think I lead on instinct a lot, and my instinct said, and that sounds a little flighty. What's that?
Lean in, right? Yeah.
It did. And we've always been a give back brand. And I think it's so easy when times are good to say, okay, we're going to write the check, or we're going to double down on this, or we're going to give more. But when times are rough and you don't know where it's going, that's where your true character, both as a person and as a brand, shines. And I wasn't going to step down. I was going to step forward. And I think I've never been so proud of our team. We had no layoffs. I didn't take a salary for a long time, and some of our top executive team took a little bit of a pay cut, nothing major, but we had a bunch of pregnant people on our team at the time. We needed to make sure that they had their benefits. We needed everyone to have full health care, because health was a huge risk at that point, not knowing what the pandemic was going to do. So I'm really proud to say no one lost their job. Everyone throughout it stayed fully employed. We got really good at working remotely, even though we're a creative team and we do better in person. But it really showed how strong our team is, how committed they are, and how passionate about our purpose they are. It was great. And when we came back, it was like, all right, get out of our way. Like, we are ready. Get out of our way.
That is amazing.
It's been fun. And we gave over 2 million meals last year, which of course was the most meals that we've ever given in a calendar year. And this year we're on track to do 3.1 million meals. And I think it's one of those things. I'm sure that we have mantras every year as a company. So we set company goals, and they are detailed goals, and it's fun. I love goals. I just feel like if you don't know where you're aiming, your chance of getting there is very slim. So goals are huge. But we also have this umbrella mantra that we do every year. And during the pandemic, it was learn and turn. And it was that idea that we have to be comfortable in the uncomfortable, because nothing is going to feel comfortable right now. We have to fail forward, and failure is not a choice. Failure will happen.
I'm going to write that down. That's so great.
Yeah. And that was more what we did. And so if you made a mistake, nobody knew. It's not like you could see a little bit around the bend. What should we do? It was like, we have no idea what's coming next. So we're just going to keep making decisions based on what we think is right. And if we make a mistake, we're going to pick ourselves back up, learn from it, move in a different direction, and nobody's going to get in trouble for it. No one ever has, but I just didn't want them to put their heads in the sand waiting for like the sky to open and the sun to come down and be like, now show us what we should do. We got to keep moving. And so comfortable in the uncomfortable, fail forward and learn and turn.
Oh yeah.
That's what it was about. And I that's why we're here.
Congratulations. That's so exciting to hear how that the purpose and passion drives your thinking. It's funny when you talk about the sort of like seeing around the curve and to the turn. The analogy that I've often sort of used in these moments is, like I grew up in the South. We didn't have a lot of snow, but I had to learn a few times how to steer on icy roads.
Mm-hmm.
And what's bizarre about it is that when you're starting to slide, your instinct is to turn the opposite direction
You're right.
But to recover, you actually have to steer into the curve.
Into it.
And that's how you straighten yourself out. And that analogy has always stuck with me, that, you got to steer into it. You got to steer into the curve, even if it feels like the wrong thing to do.
Yep. I agree. And I grew up driving in the north.
Okay, so
I 100% know what you're talking about. And you know what? The other thing, Ben, you don't slam on the brakes.
You don't, no.
And that's
fail forward.
Okay. Yes. That's a great analogy. Yep. That's great.
Winter, lead your company like you're driving in the winter. I love it.
I love it. That's right.
Oh, that's so funny. Gosh, how do I? That's such. I'm still sort of. I love that conversation. I'm trying to think. What do we talk about next? I will say I'm looking here at these products, and I love them so much, and both in the, just like I said, the humor and the functionality. But I know, when you started this in 2005, and you're building that first product, that had to be such a unique experience, because there's no manual, there's no, what was that like? What was your first, tell me about your first product and the experience of creating that.
So the only reason that Bella Tunno is baby products in general is because after my brother passed away, I found out I was pregnant, that year. And so that is literally the only reason that it's baby products. I have never had this passion for baby products. I never saw myself as an entrepreneur. I mean, I had
really.
No, oh gosh, no. I grew up in the smallest town in PA with a government worker father and a teacher mother. And I don't think I ever heard that term until college. I digress. But anyways, my point is I had no business starting a company. I had what I like to say is the will, but not the skill.
Right.
And so it's funny because the way you're phrasing the question, it feels like the sky was the limit. What do I want to do? Like I could launch anything. There's nothing but my own creativity to limit me. I felt the exact opposite, because it was me and it was a sewing machine and it was $6,000. That's what we committed to. That's what we had saved for our kids' education. Our kids weren't even born yet, but we had $6,000 in a fund that my husband was like, here you go, start it and see what you can do with it. But that's it. I mean, we were not wealthy people. We didn't grow up wealthy. It was like, that's it. So really what it came down to was the idea that I looked at the baby industry when I was shopping for my soon to be daughter, and I couldn't stand it. It just put me to sleep. Everything was yellow and quilted and teddy bears. And it was no reflection of my style. I could not find anything out there that wasn't like super high end that I couldn't touch, that was fun and whimsical and made me smile and made me think like I can still have an accessory of my style in my children's accessories.
Well, and because these moments, when you're with your children and they're growing up, those are fun moments. Those are
so fun,
right? And if you can't laugh at it, at throwing spaghetti somewhere, or the plate flipping, or the getting food everywhere, like it's such a fun time.
Yeah,
and the product should match the experience.
That's exactly right, and it didn't exist.
Right.
And so at that time, I was very limited to what I could do on a sewing machine. And I grew up with my mom making my clothes more out of necessity and monetary constraints, but I never had a desire to sew. I'd seen her sew, but then, I was pretty depressed after my brother passed away. My mom bought me a sewing machine thinking I could fill my time. And so I guess that's the start of it all. But all I did was I went and I bought these crazy fabrics. Like imagine the craziest, boldest pattern, or they said crazy things on them. And I just started making products. But at the time, because I didn't know how to sew, all I could make were burp cloths and changing pads, because they were just two squares or rectangles sewn together. I couldn't do curves. I couldn't add snaps or Velcro. I couldn't do anything.
Constraints can be good things, though.
I mean, it was nuts. Yeah. And I will tell you, there's nothing in our line that we started with, because we've evolved so much and now our products
Sure.
are proprietary and they're custom molds, and like it's
Right.
a lot of fun. But the thing that has always carried us through is swimming the opposite way of the trend. So if the
Okay.
trend was like this sweet pink and blue and gingham and little daisies, we were like this Poochie and Lily Pulitzer and in your face graphics. And that's always, I think, separated us from the pack. I used to run a
Right.
brand strategy department before I started this. And that was kind of the one thing that truly prepared me to be an entrepreneur, that if you're in the
Yeah.
sea of same, no one's going to notice you. And
Right.
so everything we've done since day one and continue to do, we try to make stand out. And so it's evolved over time, but it started with me and a sewing machine and the first product that was a cotton product. And it was just right off the shelf at the fabric store, sewn together. And now we're doing some really cool, unique products that we own, we design, we create the molds, and they're uniquely ours. So we've come a long way in product design.
That's amazing. Um, it's just, origin stories are always so interesting when you have a creative process. I would imagine it's, like you said, it's very different now in the, you have more than a sewing machine.
Yeah, yeah, we
But
do. We are very fortunate now.
yeah. So from sewing machine to molds to what is next for your products? Where are you taking Bella Tunno?
So one thing that became apparently clear during the pandemic was that we had taken this model of focusing and becoming the leader in silicone for baby products. That seemed great because, basic marketing 101 is like focus is everything, go deep, make your mark. But then when silicone raw material prices got 297%,
Ooh, ouch.
um, yeah, you realize that's a really bad idea to only be a silicone based company. And we work with 8 factories, but they were all silicone. And so one of the big things we're doing right now is truly differentiating our product line. And this is a shame on me moment. This is kind of a basic thing that we should have been focused on, but we were just growing so quickly and having so much fun with the silicone that we are expanding into teething, feeding, soothing, but it was all the same material.
All
So
your
now,
eggs in one bib.
yeah, pretty much, pretty much. So one of the big goals right now is expanding across different materials, and we are trying to really focus on a sustainability component with that. So there's some
Okay.
really cool plant-based materials that we have
Oh,
been
wow.
working with, recycled materials that we're working with. I think it's just, if we can make it work, it's a really responsible thing to do. You and I both are part of associated with the B Corp community, and that's one of their main pillars, sustainability. And
Yeah.
that's something that, as we look at different product lines that we want to launch, it really is top of mind for us. It's not as easy to do as just saying, I want to create a sustainable product, because um, one, there's a lot more testing. You can't just say, oh, it's biodegradable or recyclable. These materials have to be certified, but also you have to make sure that they're the right materials for babies and children and they're safe. And I think that's one thing we've always loved about silicone. It's so clean and doesn't have chemicals. It's
Okay.
non-toxic. Like, it's such a good, clean material for
I will
children.
say, when we were cleaning the bibs after, the messes, one of the reasons we liked using those was because it was so easy to clean, right? And you'd have the ones with
So
the
easy.
stitches, the other ones with the stitches and the Velcro, and that food would just get all in there, and it's
Yeah.
just such a hassle. Yeah, that's what we loved
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and silicone does have sustainability components. It is recyclable,
Yeah,
not in your outside trash. There's different recycling centers for
sure.
silicone. And just the fact that the long lasting nature, the life cycle of it, the durability. But as we grow, we are looking to get into some different areas like that. We're also releasing, I'm not saying much about it, but well, I don't really want to say anything about it because it's so clever. Like, I
Let's hear
love
it.
new
Let's hear it.
product development. No, I can't. It'll be out in spring
All
2023.
right.
But we have a
We'll
brand
have a
new
follow up.
concept and a brand new. Yes,
We'll have a follow up
yes,
interview when it comes out. Ping me, and we'll talk about the new product, and you can nerd out.
I will.
Awesome.
I love new product development. That is,
Yeah.
that's still where I have the heaviest hand in the company because I just think it's limitless for creativity and it's just fun.
Yeah. 100%. So you mentioned B Corp. That's we're in the application process. We're still waiting for our approval. It's a very long process.
It is.
A lot of requirements, but I think the beauty of that is that it means no one's greenwashing. No one's sort of like this is to your point earlier about your background as being in marketing. This is not about marketing, right? It's about actually walking the walk and the verification, the requirements that prove that you care about people and planet and those things. So I'm curious, at what point in the business journey did you do that, and how did it change your business?
So we've been certified going on 2 years now, and it did take the better part of 10 months to become certified. One thing that I love about B Corp, and you're about to jump right into this now, is that verification process pulls back so many layers of your business, and it just makes you realize there's so much more opportunity to do better.
Right.
And so we were verified and became certified on our first try. Clearly we were doing well, but there's a welcome letter that you get that's like, congrats, you're certified, you're a B Corp now. I am not kidding. Within 2 days, they're like, okay, now you're done celebrating. And we looked at what your company does, and here are the main areas that we see opportunity to do better.
Oh, wow.
And I love that. I just love that. And even going through the certification process, and if there are any companies out there listening, you can take the assessment just without turning it in. But in taking it, it's so eye-opening. Yeah. And so we have this whole list of things that we are working on, and we just think differently. Everything from the timers on our lights being, instead of 15 minutes till they go off, it's only 5 minutes. We don't want to waste electricity. Sure. We moved into a new office building. All the water is automatic. We don't want a chance of leaving it on. All of our paper and inks are recycled or compostable, or I don't know, all the things. So little changes, but also really big changes. The policies for our people, we've always treated our people, I thought, really well. We're a small company. We pay 100% of the premiums for all dental, health, vision. We have 401k. We have unlimited sick, unlimited vacation. I mean, work hard, play hard. We made it even better. We added all this flex work. We added a better parental leave program. But it's like, once you start seeing things that are out there, B Corp has just made us, it's made us into a company I'm really, really proud to be a part of. And part of it is like just the visibility to what more we could be doing that we didn't know we could be doing.
Well, what it makes me think of is, that it's not about a one and done certification, but it's more of a journey, right?
Yeah. Well, you have to reapply every 3 years. Yeah. So we're already on that track, and you don't just stay the same. You got to do better.
Right.
And no, I love B Corp. I really do. And I also love the fact that there's this community of like-minded leaders that push each other to do better. So like there's a women's group called Be the Change, and it's women certified B Corps. And, mirroring the rest of the world, there aren't as many women B Corps as male run B Corps. And so we come together, and the ideas we share and the way we partner and the way we support each other. And if we have a choice in partnering with a company, we're going to go B Corp first. It's been a really supportive community, but the type of community that, I don't know if your mom ever said this to you, but my mom always said, you are who you associate with. Yeah. And I can't say that exact phrase because I'm not ready to turn exactly into my mom yet, but I tell my kids.
Well, I will say from your mom seems to be pretty smart lady. So
she is, she's awesome. But it's like that with B Corp, it's kindred, same thing. It's who you really surround yourself with. If they're the types of people and leaders that make you want to do better, in a convicting way, not a condemning way.
Yeah, no, I will say that's
gold.
That's why I'm doing this podcast, is to get to talk to people like you, right? Because I've been secretly taking notes, and some of the things you said, I'm like, oh my God, I've got to use that, or I feel inspired. This is so wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much. I got one last question for you.
Sure.
So you've been in business for 17 years now. What would you tell your startup self in 2005? And what would you do differently?
So part of me wouldn't tell her anything, because if she knew too much, she'd be terrified. Absolutely terrified. I'm not kidding. I mean, never did I think I would be running this company. Never did I think we would be giving that many meals or putting that many people through rehab. It's so exciting. And I think the unknown and the ability to adjust in the unknown is a gift. I really do. So I think what I would tell myself is, enjoy the ride more. So often it was, what's next? And when you compare yourself, I'm super privileged to be in a group of, I've been granted some really nice awards, like the Ernst & Young Winning Women program and the Vital Voices Global Ambassador program. And these are programs where I get to sit next to some women that have exited $100 million companies. Well, that's a good and a bad thing. It matters your perspective, right? Because if I'm looking at my company next to theirs, I'm like, oh, look at my little company. That's no good. But if I'm looking at it as like a learning and a mentorship opportunity, that's great. Right. What I've really realized is my measuring stick has to be what matters to me. So my measuring stick is giving meals back. And all of a sudden, it doesn't matter how big their company is. It matters that they're living out their version of success and I'm living out my version of success. And so I think I would truly tell myself, you need to just enjoy the ride, enjoy the failures, because that's what's going to make you successful. Enjoy the successes more. I never stopped to enjoy the successes. Never. I mean, to this day, I don't do that. We'll get a big win. And I should be telling myself now, my 40-something-year-old self, really enjoy the journey. I still haven't learned that, Ben. I really haven't. But I also think that's what makes us hungry as entrepreneurs, right?
It is. Yeah.
But I want my kids to learn that more, because you just fly through life sometimes and you're like, let yourself feel it. Let yourself soak it in, good or bad, own it, and then move on.
Yeah. Well, and I think your team needs a celebration. They need the recognition and that moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. This was so fun to talk to you. I feel like I owe you so much. Just you've given me so much inspiration and takeaways. And I mean it when I say we're going to follow up when that product launches. I want to know. And keep doing what you're doing and inspiring others.
You too. You too. Thanks for the opportunity. I enjoyed it. Yeah.
And I've got to get some new products. I'm going to go on bellatunno.com. I gotta try some of your new stuff. Because they're 3.5 now. And they're a little better at holding the food on the plate and the fork and the mouth. But I gotta find some good ones. So.
Well, we have some new more toy items for them, so you'll be able to find those
for the transition.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
awesome.
Well, I enjoyed it. Thanks for the conversation, Ben.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Michelle. Take care.
All right. Take care.
This has been an episode of For the Better. For more information, episodes, or to be a guest on the podcast, visit forthebetterpodcast.com. Thanks all. Be well.